Hope Spencer didn't plan the timing, but fate on this show never asks. The test strip, the quiet bathroom, the shock that steals your breath pregnant. It lands the same week she cuts ties with Carter Walton for good and turns back toward Liam, trying to patch the holes in a marriage that has more stitches than fabric left. She chooses honesty first. Liam gets the truth before anyone else. The breakup with Carter wasn't clean, and the calendar won't be merciful. The baby may be his. It may be Carter's. She wants to rebuild, to stand in the same room with her husband and not feel like strangers flinching past each other. She also refuses to erase the truth to make that happen. Liam listens, jaw tight, eyes tracking a point over her shoulder like the room is moving. Losing Beth in that crash taught him how fast a day can erase a future. Grief built muscles in him that no one should develop. He tells himself to breathe, to measure, to step through it one fact at a time. Then he asks for a paternity test. Not later. Now. Hope calls Carter. He already knows the timing math. He did it the minute he heard she was trying to reconcile with her husband. Carter arrives with apologies and the restraint of a man trying not to make anything worse. He doesn't fight for titles or promises. He asks only for a fair process and a place to stand until the truth is known. They settle on a plan. An independent lab, strict chain of custody, everyone copied on every email, no room for doubt. It should be simple. It never is. The lab returns a result that reads like a verdict. Carter is the biological father. The words ring in the sterile air of an office they borrowed at the hospital, printout trembling in Hope's hand. Liam goes still. He's not loud. He doesn't throw the chair. The hurt is quiet and thorough, and it lands with the weight of a second loss he didn't schedule. Carter sees it. Everyone does. Hope swallows, nods, says she needs air, then doesn't leave. She takes responsibility in a voice that doesn't wobble. She repeats she was honest, she'll stay honest, and she wants what's right for her child. Liam wants proof the process was clean. So does Hope. Carter, the man who's drafted bylaws and cleaned up scandals for Forrester Creations, insists on it. And when the emails arrive, tiny seams start to show. One timestamp is off. A signature doesn't match. A courier logged a package at 8:17 p.m., but the lab's receipt says 7:54 p.m. The discrepancies aren't dramatic, but they're real. Hope asks for a replicate test. Liam demands one. Carter, to his credit, agrees. They move the samples to another lab, new chain of custody, new courier, new everything. Somewhere between the first and second draw, the rumors catch. Forrester and Spencer offices can hold a secret only as long as it takes a gossip to hit send. Brooke hears from Katie. Ridge hears from Brooke. Steffi hears from everyone because that's how LA works. By the time the second lab runs the first to say, Ridge's legal team is circling like a hurricane eye. Bill Spencer bristles on the other coast of town, promising Liam he'll bring in a forensic chain of custody expert and bury anyone who makes his son bleed. The second result returns and whiplash. It names Liam as the father. 2 labs. 2 answers. No room left for hugs or handshakes. This stops being a private issue and splits into 2 battlegrounds, emotional and legal. Hope, who hates litigation because it makes everyone talk in positions instead of truths, hires counsel anyway. Carter, who lives inside policy, retains his own lawyer, but instructs them to keep every move narrow, clean, and kind. Liam pushes Bill to stand down on scorched earth tactics, then caves when the depositions start. You don't let the person who stares at your child's ultrasound call you weak. A petition hits family court to establish paternity by court order with expert oversight. The judge is no-nonsense, unimpressed with last names that open doors on Rodeo Drive. She orders a supervised test, appoints a neutral lab, and warns everyone that any whisper of tampering will trigger sanctions. In that moment, someone watching from the edges smiles. Sheila Carter likes her work better when the audience never knows who designed the magic trick. She's been tracking the Logan Forrester alliances for months, clocking every fragile truce, every shared victory, every holiday photo that suggests the families are learning to coexist without setting the living room on fire. She hates it. Peace denies her oxygen. An old contact at a diagnostics company gave her what she needed: a name, a badge, a backdoor into a result queue where a status could be nudged, a report swapped, a chain of custody form reprinted with a single field corrected. This isn't about money. It's about sabotage. If she can pit the Logans against the Forresters, if she can make Liam doubt hope and turn Carter into a target, she wins a week of chaos and maybe a year of fallout. She builds her plan around plausible errors. Not a switch so obvious a first-year paralegal can spot it. Just enough grit in the gears to make everyone point at everyone else. She gets it. 2 results. 2 fathers. 3 people shredded. Back in court, the judge forbids outside communication with any lab. The new tests happen under watch, gloves changed, barcodes scanned, every tube sealed and witnessed. The samples go straight into a courier case with tamper-evident locks. A bailiff rides shotgun to the airport like it's crown jewels. While they wait, Brooke tries to comfort Hope and ends up sparring with Ridge in the hallway about how this all started and who should have seen it coming. Carter keeps his distance unless Hope invites him closer. He offers to get her a chair, a water, a barrier against the curious eyes. Liam tells Carter he's not the enemy and then stares down at his phone for 20 minutes like it can keep him from remembering the crunch of metal that took Beth away. The result arrives. The judge reads it first, face giving nothing. Then the copies slide across the table. Carter is the father. No ambiguity. The methodology is listed in painful detail. The courier's signatures match. The chain of custody is clean. A special master confirms the lab's controls. The room doesn't explode because there's nothing left to blow up. Hope looks at Liam with gratitude for the patience and the fight and the hours he didn't have to give. Then she looks at Carter with something like resolve, not romance, and says what no one expects. She will raise this child on her own. She is not going to yank Liam through a daily reminder of what he lost and can never get back. She will not ask Carter to rearrange his life around promises born out of panic or guilt. If either man wants to be present, she won't block access. But she is done defining her days by the tug-of-war between what she owes and what the world demands. Carter understands before Liam does. He asks for time with counsel to draft an agreement that protects the child and leaves Hope free to parent without interference. He says he will not fight for custody right now. He will earn his way into his son or daughter's life by showing up on the schedule that works for the baby and for Hope, not by turning the court into a scoreboard. It is the most grown decision Carter has made in years, and because this is Carter, he begins proving it immediately. He steps back from Hope's daily orbit. He recuses himself from any Forrester HR decisions that affect Hope's line so no one can say he weaponized power. He turns down Quinn's sideways attempt at a pep talk, avoids Bill's bait about being a weekend dad, and shows up for the prenatal appointments Hope invites him to: quiet, on time, useful, not grabbing headlines. When reporters sniff around the Forrester campus and try to photograph him in the parking lot, he keeps his head down and says nothing. Liam, though, isn't built for the quiet middle. He loves Hope. He loves the idea of their family. He also wakes at 3 a.m. to a phantom cry and sees twisted metal in the dark. He tells Hope he wants to be there for every appointment, every kick, every moment this baby turns from theory to heartbeat to person, even if biology writes his name in a different column. He insists, at first, that he can love without condition. And then the conditions show up on their own. The first time Carter's name appears on the clinic sheet, Liam's jaw sets. The first time Hope lists Carter as the emergency contact for a checkup he can't attend, Liam picks a fight about loyalty and optics and whether he's being phased out of his own home. Hope refuses the spiral. She draws a line and keeps it straight. Liam can be at the appointments. He can't rewrite the facts. Carter will be listed as the father. It isn't a scorecard. Liam can bring his fear to her, but not weaponize it. When he slips, she calls it out fast. He either meets the standard or he won't. Beth's loss rides shotgun in every one of those talks. Hope names it out loud so it doesn't own them. She doesn't let grief drive the day. She invites Liam to a support group for bereaved parents. He goes because she asks. She tells him he can build a bond with a child not his by blood without erasing the one he lost. It's not a replacement. It's a different kind of love with different demands. It will test him, and it will be worth the test only if he wants it for the child's sake, not to soothe his own wounds or prove something to anyone else. Meanwhile, the question of how the first two tests went haywire refuses to die quietly. Bill hires a forensic IT team, not because the judge asked for it, but because Bill likes answers he paid for. Rich pushes Forrester's legal counsel to monitor, less out of curiosity and more because if Carter's name is involved, the company's name inevitably follows. The investigation is plotting work, audit logs, server access, courier apps, metadata stamped in corners no one reads. The break comes from something simple, a lab employee who remembers a call that shouldn't have come to her desk and a request that sounded polite but wrong. The number traces back to a burner. The voice is gone. The pattern isn't. The case builds around little threads tied in the wrong direction. Deacon, who has spent half his year trying to keep his head below the tripwire of his past, hears the name that doesn't get said on official documents, but shows up in whispers anyway. Sheila. He tries to ignore it. He can't. He finds Hope, tells her he thinks Sheila's prints are on the mess. He's tired of being the guy who figures out the danger after it torches the kitchen. Hope doesn't want to hear Sheila's name. Hearing it makes everything feel manufactured and cheap, when the pain they've been swimming in is very real. But the facts line up. Finn gets looped in. So does Steffi, who is done apologizing for calling danger what it is. They press the lab pushes back. Finally, with enough pressure and a judge who doesn't like being played, the truth falls out. A compromised technician accepted a bribe to alter a Q order and swap a PDF before it cleared final sign-off. The money passed through hands that can't explain it. The technician claims ignorance and fear. The investigator calls it what it is, tampering. Sheila's name never appears in a contract or a ledger, but the moves are her signature. The judge reopens the hearings long enough to put the findings on the record. She doesn't throw anyone in jail that day. She does issue a public reprimand and orders the lab to self-report to licensing boards. She tells the families they have their answer. Carter is the father. The clean test stands. The others are void. She tells them to go build a life around that fact instead of tearing one down. Sheila enjoys the storm she made and stays out of sight, satisfied that even when truth returns, trust doesn't. That's the residue of her work. You can scrub the floor. The stain keeps a faint outline no one else can unsee. In the daylight that follows, choices harden. Hope meets with her lawyer and drafts a parenting plan that acknowledges Carter's legal rights and her decision to be the primary caregiver. There's no drama in the language, alternating weekends when age-appropriate, midweek visits, holidays planned by calendar, disputes driven to mediation before court. Carter signs. He adds a clause he fought for in corporate contracts but never expected to need in his personal life, a commitment to revisit and expand time as the child's needs evolve, not as adult insecurities demand it. He turns the dotted line into a promise you can measure. He also does the thing people expected him to avoid. He steps back in ways that actually cost him. He stops dropping by the cabin without a text first. He quits the just-in-case favors that look like courting by stealth. When coworkers fish for a quote, he gives them one sentence about respecting hope and the process and refuses any follow-up. When someone jokes that he's proving he's changed, he shrugs because this isn't a public relations campaign. It's how he sleeps at night. Liam watches all of it with a war inside. Jealousy wants to run the table. So does pride. Neither helps the baby. He chooses the hard path. He shows up, not as a father, but as the partner he's asking to be again. He paints a crib without turning it into a ceremony. He makes late-night tea without asking for applause. He hears Carter speak at an appointment and doesn't interrupt because the baby needs calm more than he needs to be the loudest man in the room. When he fails, and he does, he apologizes and resets. The house starts to feel less like a courtroom and more like a place where a child could actually nap. The families adjust at different speeds. Brooke defends Hope in any room she enters. Ridge stays measured, but protective of Carter because he's seen how much one impulsive choice can define a man and how hard it is to undo the headline you wrote for yourself. Steffi keeps a wary eye on Sheila and warns everyone that uncovered schemes don't mean retired threats. Finn locks the back doors at the hospital, procedurally speaking, and lectures colleagues about chain of custody, like he's prepping for the boards. Bill toasts Liam for keeping his cool, then, when no one's looking, shows off the clause in the court order that would have let him scorch the earth if he needed to. It's as close as he gets to growth. Through it all, the central story refuses to drift. Hope's pregnancy is not a plot device that exists only to serve the men's arcs. It's hers. She curates it with a kind of fierce calm that comes from burning out on chaos and deciding to accept nothing less than clarity. She tells Carter the door is open for him to build a relationship with their child, but the door to her heart is not a revolving one. He nods. He can grieve what might have been without turning it into a campaign. He holds the sonogram picture in the parking lot, breathes, and goes back to work. He earns the small wins, choosing a pediatrician together without turning it into a turf war, buying a stack of board books and leaving them on the porch with a note that says only for bedtime. No pressure. He starts measuring his progress not by time on the calendar, but by the number of things he didn't make harder. And Liam? The question that hovered over every scene finally asks for an answer. Can he love and raise a child that carries Carter's DNA without claws, without silent scorekeeping, without letting the ghost of Beth sit between them at the table? He proves it the only way that matters on this show and any other. Not by vows, not by florid speeches, but by the grind of everyday choices. He holds Hope's hand during a scan and jokes about the baby's profile. He's the one who remembers to install the car seat. He is also the one who, on a random Tuesday, freezes because something in the hallway smells like motor oil, and for a fragment of a second he's back where he lost his daughter. He doesn't hide it. He says it out loud. Hope hears him, thanks him, and says, "We can do both. We can honor Beth and love this child." He nods, watery but standing. The show leaves space for doubt because that's honest. There will be nights when Liam fails the standard he set for himself, when Carter hates that stepping back is the right move, when Hope wants to switch her phone off and forget anyone else has a claim to her schedule. But there's a scaffold in place now. A judgment with clean lines, a parenting plan with air to grow, a shared agreement to protect a child from becoming a battlefield. Sheila doesn't get the implosion she ordered, only fractures that will never fully smooth, a consolation prize she can live with until the next opening. The Logan Forrester alliance survives with new scar tissue and a renewed understanding that peace, if it exists here at all, is something you build every morning and protect every night. And so the arc lands exactly where it should for maximum impact. Hope is pregnant and resolved. Carter is the father and chooses the harder, quieter path that proves change better than any speech. Liam is the wild card who chooses love as a verb, not a title, while carrying a grief that will always be part of him. The legal war ends, the emotional work begins. No one gets away clean, but for once the mess leads to something sturdier than denial. A fragile truce with boundaries, duties, and a baby at the center who will inherit all their better angels if they keep choosing the right fight. Whether Liam can keep that promise unconditionally isn't answered in one climactic scene. It's answered every day he shows up without keeping score. That's the story now. That's the risk. That's the hope.
Oh.